Well, like you said, I am the founder of MobCraft Beer. We are the world's first 100% crowdsourced brewery. And we're kind of going to go over what crowdsourcing means later on for some of you that aren't necessarily with it. But anyways, we got started like any good story. A guy walked into a bar. And basically, this person walked into Capital Brewery, where I used to bartend, and she was talking about how she wanted to revitalize the downtown community in Baraboo, including the riverfront. And she was talking about how they haven't had a brewery since F. Effingers back in the early 1900s. And basically, I liked home brewing, me and my friends did, and we wanted to start a brewery. So we started talking to her contacts that were in Baraboo, including the now mayor of Baraboo. Sometimes he actually still calls us, and we're saying, we're too busy, we got to call you back, so we hang up on the mayor. That's pretty fun. But basically, we got a lot of places with her contacts, and in fact, we got so far that we started looking at buildings, old, new, historic, pretty much everything in between, in Baraboo, in and around the downtown area and riverfront area. We actually got so far as to actually put a bid in for Al Ringling of Ringling Brothers House. And you know, things kind of went on from there. It turns out that we had to talk with the government, and that's never a good thing. So talks kind of fell through. They weren't going to give us the land for as cheap as they said they were going to. Pretty much, they just weren't holding up to their end of the deal, so we decided to sort of move on. So that's the end of version 1 of MobCraft Beer. And actually, then it was called Balanced Rock Brewery. We got as far as calling it that. That's about it, though. Version 2.0, we wanted to do a brew-on-premise facility. And basically, a brew-on-premise facility is where you have a brick-and-mortar facility, but the community is allowed to come in and brew on your production environment. We also wanted to have a Winnebrewgo, which was a Winnebago that we could move around and brew in. We wanted to really bring the community in that aspect, including weddings. Basically, at your bachelor or bachelorette party, you could brew the beer that 2 or 4 weeks later you'd have at your wedding. Sort of a cool event like that. You know, we could have it at pretty much any sort of party, birthday parties, anniversaries, stuff like that. And the whole point was to really bring the community into our process and have that connection with the community that said, oh, I'm going to go over to MobCraft and we're going to make a beer. We want them to have control over their beer. Rather than pushing beer down their throat, we want them to pull it towards them. And so that moved on, and we kind of realized that that's really expensive startup cost. We needed to buy all the equipment up front. We needed to do a brick and mortar facility, obviously, and it was illegal in Wisconsin. So kind of hit a rock wall there. But now it actually is legal in Wisconsin, but at the time it wasn't. So it makes me feel kind of old that in this process it's become legal. But version 3.0, this is where we are right now. We wanted to avoid the brick and mortar facility, so we chose contract brewing, and we only own a couple pieces of equipment, vital equipment that we need in terms of fermentation vessels, kegs, bottles, and a carbonating line. So we're contract brewing at House of Brews, which is actually on the east side of Madison. If you guys know where Stoughton Road is, as the bird flies, it's about a quarter mile east of Farm and Fleet. But we still really wanted to keep the community involved in it, so we chose to do crowdsourcing. Basically what crowdsourcing is that we're going to ask our community of beer lovers, our user base, our email list, if they want to submit a beer recipe to us. We're going to validate that recipe and push it back to the crowd. And then they're going to basically vote on these beers, and they're voting and making it popular through social media, including Facebook posts and likes and Twitter retweets and tweets and blog post views and basically website page views. And so we can track that with a social media algorithm that we developed, and we determine the 4 most popular beers at the end of every month. So at the end of each month, those 4 most popular beers go into an ordering phase. And that ordering phase is basically where you order one of the 4 most popular beers, and at the end of the month, that beer that gets ordered the most is going to be produced. And we also give you the opportunity to get your money back if you don't want to order the most popular beer. So there's that option as well. Manufacturing, it takes about 2 weeks for an ale, 4 to 5 weeks for a lager, and then a little bit more for specialty beers, bourbon barrel-aged stuff, higher alcohol content, Doppelbocks and barley wines and imperials. So there's variance in terms of our our process, because every month we're going to do something else, but we won't necessarily have a beer out every month. So this is some weird stuff. You can look at this. Cucumber cilantro sour. That's actually one of my favorites. You wouldn't think it's good because it's cucumber, but it's delicious. Anyways, we want to really give us your wildest ideas for beers, and we'll make it. And we're at various beer festivals pouring those crazy beers that might not make it into full-scale production. We're on a 10-barrel system right now, but they might make it into beer festivals, and basically your beer could be popular that way. We've been at several of these already, but we have, in September and October alone, we have a beer festival, if not 2, every weekend. So 10 or 12 beer festivals in 8 weekends. That's pretty crazy. We're on tap at a few locations in Madison right now, including 8 Seasons Grill, Tex Tubbs Taco Palace. We actually just took our firkin back today. We're also in Whitewater, going to be in Delafield. We have been on tap at Vintage and Majestic. So we're getting around. Maybe you've seen us. We'll also keep you updated if you join our mailing list in the back of the room. Soon to be brewed is the Most Mobbed Double IPA. This was the first crowdsourced beer that we ever made. And it went all the way through the process. Somebody submitted it to us, somebody promoted it, everybody voted on it, and everybody ordered it. And it went all the way through the production that way. It's a crazy beer, and that's one of the labels, the strong guy with the girls mobbing him. Anyways, on tap tonight, this is the Participation Pale Ale. Heavily aroma hopped, apricot, grapefruit sort of notes to it. And it's a delicious beer, and this was really sort of our first beer that we wanted to put into commercial production. This was not a crowdsourced beer, but that's about it. Feel free to come and get me afterwards.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.